Hello, folks. Today we are so grateful to our friends who took us along on a trek to the Gila Wilderness Cliff Dwellings. What an amazing place. This is a national monument, and it is free to get in. You don't even need your national park pass to get into this place. Most of the cliff dwellings that we have visited are gated off where you can only see them from a distance and you're on a path below or near. But this one is different. You actually get to go inside the cliff dwellings and go upstairs and walk through rooms. It is pretty interesting. The Cliff Dwelling Trail is a 1-mile loop trail that climbs an elevation of 180 feet above the canyon floor. It is steep and rocky in some places. Allow yourself an hour round trip or more if you have little kids. We spent way longer than an hour. You can also see the cliff dwellings after 1/4 of a mile hike from the canyon floor. Wear sturdy shoes and take water, lots of water. The earliest settlers of the Gila Wilderness were led by Juan de Oñate, Spanish colonists, settling east and south of this area in 1598. The Spanish stayed close to the main routes and the Rio Grande Valley, and by the early 1800s had not penetrated the Gila River country as far as these cliff dwellings. So they were untouched. After an 1878 prospecting trip by H.B. Aylman documenting the cliff dwellings, archaeologist Adolphe Bandelier arrived in 1884, but looters had already stolen many artifacts and destroyed much of the archaeological record. Settlement of the region by miners and ranchers accelerated after the Apache Wars ended in 1886. Towns like Pinos Altos and Mogollon sprang up in response to the mining boom. Homesteaders immigrated to the area to raise herds of cattle and sheep. Still others cut high country forest for timbers. In 1907, President Theodore Roosevelt proclaimed the Gila Cliff Dwellings a national monument to prevent further damage and vandalism of the cliff dwellings. As wild lands across the United States began to vanish, a wilderness preservation movement arose. Pioneering ecologist Aldo Leopold was assistant district forester for the Southwest National Forest early in his career. In 1924, he persuaded the U.S. Forest Service to establish the Gila Wilderness, the nation's first designated wilderness area. Now, the Gila Wilderness protects the upper Gila River watershed. Leopold's vision was helped to inspire the 1964 Wilderness Act that now preserves the wilderness of over 109 million acres of federal public lands. How amazing. The Puebloans of the Mogollon area, the ancient Puebloan people who built these cliff dwellings, belong to a larger tradition that included parts of what is now Arizona, New Mexico, Texas, and northern Mexico. Archaeologists call this the Mogollon area. Its pottery style and buildings differ slightly from those of ancestral Puebloans area farther north. The Puebloans who once lived here grew corn, beans, and squash, foraged the fertile Gila River Valley and surrounding forest for native plants, and hunted the area's game. Departing from tradition in the region, the dwellings formed the first pit houses and surface pueblos. They built their pueblos inside the caves of the cliff dwellers' canyon with rocks and mortar and timbers. Felled between 1276 and 1287. The pottery found in the caves suggests that they came from the Tularosa River region to the north. During a time of many migrations in the Southwest, they moved on by around 1300. Evidence suggests that the Apache migrated to the upper Gila River in the 1500s, though some of their oral traditions say that they have always been here, and this has always been their home. Legendary leader Geronimo was born near the Gila River headwaters in the early 1820s, when New Mexico challenged Apache control of the area. 30 years later, the United States asserted its authority in the area. It built army posts, and by 1870, the federal government began to relocate the Apaches to reservations, but not until September 1886 were the last Boondocking, as Geronimo's people were known, forced from their ancestral land, led by Geronimo himself.